Alright, good morning everybody. This is another episode of Southside Selections, and in the spirit of October and moving towards Halloween, I will be talking about several scary movies or more psychological thrillers, while also highlighting some more family-friendly options for those who aren't really into jump scares or gore or that sort of stuff. But as always, all of the movies I will be discussing are available through the Bethlehem Area Public Library, so I hope you go check them out. So the first movie is The Others, and this came out in 2001, and it stars Nicole Kidman. So if you're a fan of her, I definitely suggest that you check it out. She plays a woman who has two young kids during World War II, and she fears that her house is haunted. The family moves to the English coast to wait to hear word about her missing husband, while she also struggles to protect her kids from a rare disease that makes the sun harmful to them. When her daughter claims to see ghosts, she initially just dismisses it as the servants playing tricks on them, but they continue to absolutely terrify this woman and her family, and eventually earn the name The Others. Other than describing this as anything but a typical haunted house film, I can't really say much without spoiling it, but just know that you are in for an absolutely fantastic plot twist by the end, should you choose to watch it. The second movie is Us, which was directed by Jordan Peele, and if you have heard of Get Out, that is another one of his movies, which I also highly recommend, but I would probably say that I prefer this one. Us stars Lupita Nyong'o as a mother of two on vacation with her family, and one night they notice some figures standing outside of their house, and they turn out to be doppelgangers. And if you're not familiar with that term, it pretty much just refers to a person who looks eerily similar to another. So think along the lines of like evil twin sort of deal. So the family then has to fight off their lookalikes, which proves to be pretty complicated when your enemy thinks just like you do. The next movie is It, based on the novel of the same name by Stephen King. And as someone who admittedly absolutely hated the original It film, I was super excited when I discovered a couple years back that they were remaking it. It follows a group of middle school kids who are stalked by a terrifying clown, and what makes matters so much worse for them is the clown is able to change its appearance based on each kid's worst fear. They dub themselves the Losers Club, and they decide to take matters into their own hands after numerous kids in the town are killed by this clown. And the movie earned itself a sequel a couple years after the original came out, so I definitely recommend to check that out as well. It's called It Part 2. So, The Conjuring is probably my favorite haunted house film of all time. It's a really solid take on what's an overdone possession narrative, in my opinion. But The Conjuring follows a family of seven as they settle into a new house. They pretty quickly realize that something weird is going on, so they seek help from paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. And Ed and Lorraine Warren actually were real people who were paranormal investigators. And if you're familiar with the Amityville haunting, they were also involved with that case as well. But The Conjuring is the first haunted house film that I watched in a while at the time that really it did everything right in my book. I could check off all the things that I need from a movie like that, and it satisfied them. And it quickly garnered a pretty huge fan base when it came out in 2013. But it's now the first movie in the Conjuring franchise, inspiring other movies such as The Conjuring 2, Annabelle, and The Nun. Alright, so the last movie under what I consider my scary category is Orphan. And Orphan follows a couple who decide to adopt a young girl named Esther after experiencing a terrible miscarriage. And at first, Esther appears relatively normal, if not perfect, but her behavior starts to get a little odd and soon concerns and scares them. Orphan is not the typical horror flick about a disturbed kid. You might think you know what Esther's secret is, but I can guarantee you will not see this one coming. I've recommended this movie to a lot of people over the years, and not a single person has managed to figure out what the major reveal is. So I would say this plot twist is probably one of the best from the horror movies that I've seen, and I've seen my fair share, and that's why this will always remain close to the top of my list in terms of favorites. So the first movie on my family-friendly list is The Corpse Bride, and this is another one of Tim Burton's stop-motion animated films, and I personally think it's actually better than the popular Nightmare Before Christmas, but I will let you guys be the judge of that. It takes place in a Victorian-era inspired village as Victor and Victoria are preparing to enter an arranged marriage. Now, Victor and Victoria do actually really like each other, but Victor is pretty nervous, so he decides to go into the woods to practice his vows. And while doing so, he places a ring on an upturned root of a tree, which turns out to be the finger of a dead bride named Emily. So Emily then proclaims that she is now Victor's wife and takes him to the land of the dead. While there, Victor learns what exactly caused Emily's premature death, and he also has to figure out how he can return to the land of the living. It has some really great songs in it, and I think they really nailed the gloomy atmosphere, so I would say this is probably my favorite movie when it comes to family-friendly Halloween movies. The next movie is another stop-motion animated film, and that is Coraline. I will preface this by saying that it is a movie that is made for kids, but it even unsettles me now as an adult, so I would definitely keep that in mind. It's just unnerving in some ways, but Coraline is based on Neil Gaiman's book of the same name, and it follows a young girl named Coraline who moves into a new apartment with her parents, and she discovers a tiny door in their apartment that leads to a place called the Other World, which is essentially just a parallel universe. She meets her other mother and her other father, and overall she starts to think that this world is a lot better than the one that she came from. But nothing is as it seems, and Coraline quickly learns the sinister truth behind the other world once she's invited to stay forever. The next movie is The Haunted Mansion, and who doesn't love Eddie Murphy? The Haunted Mansion stars Eddie Murphy as a realtor who brings his family along to tour a house that he has been invited to try and sell. As I'm sure you've guessed, that house turns out to be haunted. As the family gets to know those who are living on the property, they start to unravel the mystery of what happened in the house years ago, and they have to race to free themselves from getting tangled up in its dark past. It's spooky, but it's also really funny at times, with my personal favorite feature being the singing busts. So the last movie that is on my family-friendly Halloween movie list, and just the last of my list overall for today, is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. This was my absolute favorite Scooby-Doo movie as a kid, and it's arguably the best Scooby-Doo movie in my opinion. When the movie begins, the mystery gang have gone their separate ways after pretty much just growing tired of solving mystery after mystery. Fred, having started his own TV show, decides that he wants to hunt down a real ghost, so he eventually contacts the others in order to explore allegedly haunted locations across the country. So that's what brings all of them back together. After they just encounter fake after fake, they arrive in New Orleans pretty much ready to give up. However, they are invited by a woman named Lena Dupree to visit Moonscar Island, which is a place known for being haunted by the pirate Morgan Moonscar. They travel to the island with Lena and get much more than they bargained for. This is a movie that I remember the soundtrack also being fantastic, so if you haven't seen it, definitely recommend giving it a try. So that's it for today. I hope that these movies sparked your interest and helped get you in the Halloween mood. If there's a Halloween movie that I didn't mention today and you love it, let us know what it is in the comments. I know I'm personally always looking for more recommendations when it comes to these sorts of movies, so let us know what you like. But thank you for watching, and check back soon for another video. Bye!